Queen Victoria. When you hear that name, what comes to mind? The ruler who built the golden age of the British Empire, the widow in black who wore mourning clothes for 40 long years. Strict, proper, the very mother of an empire. But what if that image was a cleverly constructed facade? Today, we uncover the true face of Victoria, one that history textbooks will never tell you. A story of a childhood akin to imprisonment. A shrewdness that used her husband's death for political gain. And a tale of burning passion and extraordinary desires hidden beneath her black dress. This is the unknown true story of a betrayed woman, a mother, and a queen. Now, let's shine a light into the darkness of history. Our story begins long before Victoria was queen, in her lonely childhood. She was raised under an abnormal surveillance system known as the Kensington system. Her mother, the Duchess of Kent, and her rumored lover, John Conroy. They isolated Victoria from the outside world to completely control the future queen. She was not allowed to be alone with anyone but her mother. And even when going up or downstairs, someone always had to hold her hand. Every action was monitored and recorded. It was an invisible prison that shackled her spirit. But it was this very oppression that fostered in her a craving for freedom and an unyielding will. Her 18th birthday. It was the day she legally came of age and could ascend to the throne. And the day she would be freed from the detestable Kensington system. The very first thing she did after her accession, she kicked her mother out of her bedroom and banished Conroy from the palace. On this day, the lonely girl was reborn as the most powerful monarch of the British Empire. After gaining her freedom, the Queen's next chapter was a fateful love. The man was her cousin, Prince Albert, a prince from a small German state. The moment Victoria saw him, she fell head over heels in love. However, for a queen to propose was unthinkable by the standards of the time. But Victoria didn't care for standards. She summoned Albert herself and proposed marriage. Their married life was a whirlwind of passion. Contrary to her stern image, Victoria deeply loved her husband and never tried to hide her affection. And just between us, it is said her libido was extraordinarily strong. The proof? They had no fewer than 9 children together. However, she hated being pregnant. She was constantly irritable during her pregnancies, complaining she was being bred like a rabbit or a guinea pig, and often took her frustrations on her husband, Albert. Victoria, who had an extreme fear of pain, made a bold decision during the birth of her 8th child. She demanded the use of chloroform, an anesthetic that was considered taboo at the time. The church strongly opposed it, questioning why she would avoid the sacred pain of childbirth given by God, but the Queen dismissed their objections. It's fascinating how the Queen's decision ultimately paved the way for painless childbirth to spread throughout the world. A mother of 9. But was she a loving mother like the mother of the nation? The answer is no. Victoria described newborn babies as ugly as a frog, and detested breastfeeding as animalistic and disgusting. Even as the children grew, her attitude is said to have been strict and constantly critical. It's a far cry from the image of the mother of the empire, isn't it? But with such passion, their quarrels were naturally spectacular. The Queen and the Prince Consort. This power dynamic often created tension between them. During one argument, Victoria, in a fit of temper, locked herself in her room. Albert knocked on the door. Who is it? It is your husband. The Queen has no husband. This exchange is a famous anecdote that symbolizes their relationship. But Albert wasn't just a handsome prince. As a prince from a small German state, he was initially given the cold shoulder by the British political world. He was just Victoria's husband. His political influence was almost zero. However, he demonstrated his exceptional talents in promoting the arts, science, and industry. The great success of the famous Great Exhibition in London was also his achievement. He supported the British Empire not just as the Queen's husband, but as a ruler in the shadows. Victoria's influence on the world didn't stop there. The pure white wedding dress, now a staple of weddings. The person who created this trend was none other than Queen Victoria. Until then, colorful and extravagant dresses were common at royal weddings. But she deliberately chose a white dress to symbolize purity. By the way, this dress is said to have weighed nearly 20 kilograms. Being a bride is no easy task. Her other insatiable desire was her appetite. It's hard to imagine from her petite frame, but her food consumption was said to be more than double that of an average adult male. At lavish banquets, while other guests enjoyed conversation, she would just keep eating dish after dish as they were brought out. Her eating was said to be so intense it terrified those around her. Perhaps she was the type to turn to food when stressed. However, her happy days came to an abrupt end. In 1861, her beloved husband Albert suddenly died of typhoid fever. Victoria's grief was immeasurable. From that day on, for the remaining 40 years of her life, she never took off her mourning clothes. This was the birth of the widow in black known to the world. However, her mourning attire was not just an expression of grief. It was also a sophisticated political performance to gain the sympathy of the public and solidify her authority by borrowing the prestige of her late husband. The public sympathized with the grieving queen, and her authority became stronger than ever before. Her sorrow created a grief business throughout the British Empire, even moving the economy. The grief of losing her beloved husband led the queen into the world of the occult. She became devoted to spiritualism and seances, trying to communicate with Albert's spirit. Supporting her through this was a Scottish servant, John Brown. He was a good friend to the queen, and some say he also acted as a spiritual medium. Their overly intimate relationship would sow the seeds of a new scandal in the court. In the long, lonely years of her later life, her heart was soothed by an Indian secretary, Abdul Karim. Their deep bond, which transcended status and race, sparked a whirlwind of fierce jealousy and racist conspiracies within the court. But the queen protected him to the very end. She was not just the Queen of Britain. Though she never visited the land, she was also the Empress of India. Queen Victoria's children married into royal families across Europe one after another. She literally became the grandmother of Europe. However, this blood connection ironically gave rise to tragedy. The hemophilia gene carried by the Victorian royal family spread to royal houses all over Europe. A strict queen, a passionate wife, a critical mother, and a grieving widow. The true face of Queen Victoria cannot be captured in a single portrait. Her life was a grand drama filled with love, desire, and the immense pressure of a vast empire. Has your image of Queen Victoria changed, even just a little? The truth of history is always far more complex and full of humanity than we might think. Thank you for watching.